I don't have my glasses and I can read nothing. There we go. Thank you so much. That would have been bad. At least I know that I can say proudly and confidently that we are standing at the place of the world's premier operational location for our space launches. In fact, the Florida Space Coast is home to, I think, 40% of the world's space launches. We launch more here from Florida Space Coast than all of the other spaceports in the United States combined. This is truly a gem of the state of Florida. It is a location and an operation and a mission that I am committed to making sure that Florida remains the go to location for the world's launches, and it will not falter on my watch. So it is great to be back here in Florida Space Coast, which has been the launch pad of space exploration from the very beginning. And one of the reasons we are here, and the two of these gentlemen are standing with me, is because while we have been the premier launch pad of space exploration, and in fact, so much of the first in space exploration started right here, we are still relying on infrastructure that was built back when we started the nation's space program. And so, if you'll remember, I think the first launch lifted from the Cape back in 1950. It's the very first launch of 2026. And we're still operating on infrastructure that was built decades ago. And one of the things and one of the challenges we are presented with is that infrastructure needs to be updated, modernized, and strengthened because we now have a launch capacity that is skyrocketing, no pun intended. I believe just not a few years ago, we were launching in the teens every year, and we just hit over 100 launches in 2025. It was the highest number of launches we have had in the history of the Cape. And just since the late teens, I think we've increased our launches by over 500%. So you cannot increase capacity of launches at that fast a rate without going back and examining how we're going to maintain this on old infrastructure. And so, as a new senator who was just appointed last year by Governor DeSantis, who has been very focused on making sure that Florida maintains our position in the great space race, making sure that we are the gem, the asset of America's space program. I made it my mission to make sure that we were doing everything we could to support Florida's Space Coast, Florida's space economy, and the public private partnerships that have really accelerated the number of launches and the innovation in space exploration. And so we just celebrated when we saw our return to our moon mission, and we're just celebrating this year in our nation's 250th anniversary. And so we don't want to lose sight of what our ultimate goal is. We don't want to take our foot off the accelerator. We want to stay focused and moving forward to making sure we're getting things done for Florida Space Coast. So I'm here today and excited to be here today to announce legislation, new legislation that I am filing to propel our nation's space program to new heights through our Space Ready 2.0 Act. This is vital importance to both our national security and economic success in the United States. We want to make sure not only that Florida remains a leader on our Florida Space Coast and our 6 spaceports, but that the United States remains a leader in space innovation and that we do not lose that lead among our foreign adversaries. Florida will continue to play an integral role. We have the Canaveral Space Force Station, Kennedy Space Center, Space Florida launch complexes, all that we need to be paying attention to and making sure that we're supporting. NASA supports more than 35,000 jobs in our state with more than 8 billion in economic output. We know that space launches on the Space Coast Not only have they been increasing, they're requiring new types of equipment, new types of approaches, new partnerships in order to launch so many in a condensed period of time. We believe that the Space Coast will be supporting upwards of 500 launches per year within the next 10 years. So think about how quickly that is escalating just from a few years ago. And so we've got to be focusing on this infrastructure. We know that there are funding challenges right now as a whole in any area in our nation. We are looking at how we are going to be funding particular agencies and being responsible stewards to our taxpayers. Very concerning is that the NASA Office of Inspector General just released a report last month that talked about the overall state of NASA's launch infrastructure, and they mentioned that the Kennedy Space Center is utilizing that infrastructure from the 60s. And just to put that in perspective, that goes back to the Apollo program. That's the infrastructure that all of these new launches are using and to trying to keep pace with the new capacity demands. It is estimated, according to that report, that NASA is going to need upwards of $1 billion of upgrades to keep pace with the Artemis launches. So Florida can't afford to fall behind. So I'm introducing the Space Ready Act to keep pace with that infrastructure demand and the rapid growth of the commercial space industry. This will give NASA a pilot program that allows the agency to accept and work with private contributions from our commercial partners and projects at NASA. It does not, and this is very important to me to make sure everyone understands, in no way does this bill mean that there is new spending programs or a new treasury fund, or it doesn't authorize new federal spending. This is a legal mechanism to facilitate voluntary contributions into our aging infrastructure. It is important to me as someone that takes very seriously our use of taxpayer dollars that we are thinking outside the box and making sure we are using innovative programs to fund some of this demand. So this will build upon NASA's existing authority. It allows private sector partners to voluntarily invest in infrastructure improvements that will directly support the missions that they and the United States rely on in this new space race. Government should never stand in the way of innovation. And this bill will go a long way to making sure we are clearing out any bureaucratic hurdles to foster more innovation and success in the space race. If private industry and partners are willing to contribute, we shouldn't let our laws stand in the way of that. Again, our facilities are more than 60 years old, and having this private investment will be the best way to support the increase in launches that is demanded by our new space race. So I am proud to introduce the Space Ready Act today. I have seen firsthand over my career that public and private partnerships can really propel um, projects to success. And we need to get out of the way and make sure that we are doing everything we can to support this gem in Florida, which is our Florida Space Coast. So I'm committed to ensuring the Sunshine State remains the launch pad for American leadership in space. I am so proud to be joined today by some of our partners in this effort, and I will allow them at this time to come up and share their thoughts on the Space Ready Act.
Well, thank you, Senator Moody, not only for just coming down again today, but really your leadership and commitment. If you look at what she's done in just a very short period of time in terms of the amount of impact that I think has been made, I think you're not going to find anything comparable. So thank you very much to that. I also want to thank KSC Center Director Brian Hughes for hosting today. It's been a great new partnership with him and the entire team, and we're able to drive things forward together. It's that willingness to rethink new ways of doing business, and more importantly, the conviction to confront these challenges that the senator highlighted moving forward. So thanks, Brian, to being a true partner there. You know, the most powerful truth about the spaceport is that nothing here was ever built by one hand. Government laid the foundation, private industry brought the recent ambition, and it's a partnership that put 109 launches on the board. It's a model Florida figured out a long time ago, bringing the right people together at the same table, aligning public purpose with private capital, and then moving with urgency. Florida has invested more than $500 million into space transportation infrastructure, and the majority of that has come right here at Kennedy Space Center. The Space Ready Act 2.0 will help that number grow, and keep Florida and America first in the space economy. The challenge in front of us isn't anything we haven't accomplished or tackled before. Uh, but this spaceport was not built to support Starship, New Glenn, and other super heavy launch vehicles that now define the manifest. We're building new launch support infrastructure from the ground up in many cases. Our roads and bridges, launch complexes, and manufacturing, processing, and assembly buildings all require smart, modern tools that leverage capital and investment to support industry that delivers and brings immense economic value to our local area and to the state at large. From our phones and breakthrough research to financial markets, space technologies power our lives and bring immense economic value for everyone across the state. And then I will tell you, Senator Moody doesn't just talk about how important the space industry is, she delivers for it. Last year, she delivered on the Secure U.S. Leadership in Space Act, which became law and made spaceport bonds tax exempt for the very, very first time ever, finally putting on spaceports on equal footing with airports and seaports and unlocking private capital. That law de-risks industry's investment and brings more private capital to the table. And the Space Ready Act will do the same and put it to work. So we're very grateful for that. And I've told her many times, just in literally the days and hours after the Secure and Emerging Leadership in the Space Act passed, we were getting phone calls on how best to take advantage of that. And I would expect the same here. Because this is the same approach that built modern America. For decades, airports and seaports have taken advantage of these types of tools, and we look forward to doing that again. Spaceports are just simply the newest mode of transportation, and they deserve innovative tools like the Spaceport Tax Exempt Bonds and like the Space Ready Act. The logic you said, Senator, set in motion with the bond law carries forward to this one, and we want to treat our launch infrastructure like the national transportation assets that they are and make sure we have pathways to build. I think this bill is built on the same truth that built the spaceport. Create a framework for state, local, and private sector to build together and row in the same direction. Florida built the model for a thriving commercial space industry unlike anywhere else in the world. And with leaders like you, Senator Moody, fighting for it, we know we're going to keep the lead. So thank you very much and appreciate the opportunity to say a few words today.
If I could get this one. Hey everyone, my name is Edgar Campa Palafox, and I have the honor and the pleasure of representing the Economic Development Commission of Florida Space Coast, a local private-public partnership that represents the region. On behalf of our organization, our board of directors, and the many community partners, stakeholders that we represent, I want to thank Senator Moody not only for her space leadership in general, but obviously for introducing this act. As you know, has been always been the place where America's boldest visions actually take place. For more than 6 decades, our region has seen programs that are iconic to and crucial for the ambitions of this country, like Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Space Shuttle. And now, fast forward to this time where we have lunar exploration with Artemis, the commercial space, and the new space economy. But the next era of space leadership requires world-class infrastructure to support this innovation that is taking place here in the Space Coast and the rest of the state. Today, Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral represents the busiest launch complex in the world, as Senator mentioned. And that demand continues to grow. And at an unprecedented pace, as commercial providers, NASA and Department of War expand their missions and chooses Florida Space Coast to manufacture things and send them to orbit or beyond. The reality is that much of this infrastructure supporting these operations was built decades ago, as Senator Moody pointed out. And the Space Ready Act recognizes that challenge by creating new opportunities for public and private investment in critical infrastructure. This legislation obviously will ensure that Kennedy Space Center and the Cape can continue supporting American leadership in space while preparing for the next generation of innovation. Let me tell you, just from the economic development perspective, infrastructure creates capacity, and capacity attracts investment, and investment fuels innovation. But most important, innovation creates jobs, And obviously, here in the Space Coast, we are seeing the result of those investments with high-wage jobs that are expanding far beyond the launch pad, from supporting aerospace, technology companies, logistic providers, universities, entrepreneurs, and thousands of workers that are employed with great jobs that are helping design, build, integrate, and launch and refurbish those spacecraft and rockets that are taking off from Florida Space Coast. The Space Ready Act it strengthens America's space industrial base and it reinforces the Space Coast as a premier destination for companies looking to innovate, manufacture, and launch. At the ADC, as we mentioned, our mission is to help businesses establish and expand their presence here in the region, creating high-wage jobs for our citizens. And Senator Moody, you're not only helping that mission that we have, but enhancing national security and the leadership of space of the U.S. So thank you once again for your leadership and your commitment to ensure that tomorrow continues to launch from the Florida Space Coast. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for helping us make this announcement today about this important piece of legislation, incredibly timely after seeing the Inspector General's report out of NASA last month, which showed the funding gap, which could dramatically affect our ability to keep pace with the demand of launches moving forward. So I'm incredibly proud to be the senator for the great state of Florida. I'm incredibly proud to have already in my first year passed legislation to help Florida's Space Coast. I was proud to be recognized as one of the most productive freshman senators last year. Probably so much of my focus being on propelling our Space Coast had a lot to do with that and getting that passed. But I have not let up, and we won't let up because we cannot fail in our support of not just this state, but our nation's new space race. It is important not only to the economic strength and prosperity of the state of Florida, but to the success of the United States of America moving forward. So I'd be happy to